There's this moment in The Phantom Menace where everything stops, the music fades, the doors slide open, and there he is, Darth Maul, standing like the final boss of an ancient prophecy with a lightsaber that literally doubles down on intimidation. And for a split second, you think, yeah, this guy is going to wipe the floor with both of them. No contest. Then you watch the duel, and it's insane. Maul is flipping around like a force-powered gymnast. He's driving Qui-Gon back. He's splitting Kenobi and his master like a pro. The guy moves like a Sith blender with legs. And yet somehow, someway, it all ends with him just standing there like a proud dad, waiting for a compliment, while Obi-Wan charges up a jump attack, like it's a video game tutorial. And the more you look at it, the more it hits you. Maul didn't lose because of bad luck, or some unexpected Force miracle. He lost because he stood there, smirking, waiting, like a kid who just scored and forgot to play defense. He had one job, one moment to seal the win, and instead, he posed for the cameras. It's actually kind of wild how fast he goes from being the most terrifying thing in the galaxy to a cautionary tale for Sith overconfidence. And it's not like this was some fluke either. Maul spends the rest of his life repeating the same mistake, chasing revenge, thinking rage will win the day, and constantly underestimating the people who actually think before they swing. And yeah, it's tragic, but also kind of funny. Because for all his menace, for all the horns and snarls and brooding stares, Maul really was just a guy who thought he was too cool to fail, and got schooled by someone who was literally hanging off a pipe seconds earlier. In this video, we're breaking down how Darth Maul's entire downfall comes down to one thing: ego. We're going to look at how he went from terrifying assassin to galactic runner-up, how his arrogance blinded him to the obvious, and why being overpowered means nothing when you're just plain dumb in the moment. So let's talk about Darth Maul, the guy who looked like a nightmare, fought like a hurricane, and still somehow lost to a Padawan who was crying over his dead mentor. From the second he ignited that double-bladed lightsaber, Maul oozed intimidation. He was quiet, calculated, and didn't need a single line of dialogue to make you feel like the Jedi was screwed. But here's where it gets weird. For a character so visually terrifying, Maul's tactical sense was surprisingly non-existent. Like, how do you go toe-to-toe with two Jedi, dominate the fight, separate them, and then somehow get yourself cut in half by a guy who was just dangling over a pit 30 seconds earlier? Something doesn't add up. It's not that Obi-Wan was secretly stronger, faster, or more skilled. It's that Maul got cocky. He stood there, lightsaber buzzing, pacing in circles like a Sith peacock. And while he was busy admiring his own reflection in the Force, Obi-Wan used actual strategy. Something Maul clearly forgot was part of the job description. And you start wondering, was Maul really that good? Or was everyone just too distracted by the horns and the eyeliner to notice he was mostly just a flashy dancer with anger issues? Sure, he looked cool, but beneath all that style, there wasn't much substance. So now I can't help but dig into it. Not just how he lost, but why. Why did one of the most hyped villains in the franchise go down like that? And why did it feel so deserved? Watching that final fight in The Phantom Menace now, it's actually infuriating how easily Maul could have won if he just stopped showboating for 5 seconds. The guy had the high ground, the low ground, the whole damn terrain advantage. And he still decided to stand there doing twirls, while Obi-Wan was clearly revving up for something. And don't give me the whole he was letting Kenobi tire himself out excuse. Maul wasn't being patient, he was being arrogant. He thought the fight was already over. He had that classic Sith smugness, the same kind that got Dooku's hands chopped off and made Anakin think Mustafar was a good idea. Maul just did it first. You ever play a video game against someone who's clearly better than you, but then they start taunting, and you catch them slipping? That's Maul. He played himself. He let his ego do the thinking, while Obi-Wan actually used the Force like it was meant to be used. Not just for throwing rocks, but for reading your enemy and striking when they least expect it. And honestly, for all the build-up around Maul's return in Clone Wars and Rebels, he never really learns the lesson. He just becomes a bitter, broken version of his younger self. Still obsessed with revenge, still chasing a war he'd already lost, still convinced he was destined for greatness when all he really had was flair. There's something undeniably sad about Maul's whole story, because when you strip away the flash, the snarls, and the spinning saber routines, what you're left with is a broken man chasing shadows. He starts off as Sidious's weapon, sharp and focused, but never truly understood his place in the bigger picture. From the moment he loses to Obi-Wan, he spends the rest of his life trying to rewrite that ending. Every move he makes in Clone Wars, every scheme in Rebels, it's all just desperate noise. A man who never recovered from that first fall, and can't admit he was the reason he fell in the first place. He tries to take over Mandalore, manipulate Ezra, outwit Vader, and even hunt down Kenobi one last time. But none of it is about power or purpose. It's about ego. Maul can't stand being irrelevant. He can't stand being the guy who lost to a Padawan. So he claws his way back up, only to fall again and again. And by the time he finally confronts Obi-Wan on Tatooine, he's not even dangerous anymore. He's just tired, haunted, clinging to one last hope that maybe killing Kenobi will finally give his life meaning. But Kenobi's already moved on. He's grown. Maul hasn't. It's tragic because Maul was never really defeated by the Jedi. He was defeated by his own inability to grow beyond that moment. And deep down, he knew it. And yet, despite all his flaws, Maul is still one of the most mesmerizing characters in Star Wars. There's something magnetic about him. Something primal and terrifying that makes you want to watch every single second he's on screen. He doesn't talk much, but he doesn't need to. The choreography of his fights, the way he moves like a predator stalking prey, it's cinematic gold. That Phantom Menace duel still holds up, because Maul brought a physicality and intensity we hadn't seen from any Sith before. He wasn't some old guy in robes. He was a martial artist with a vendetta, and his resurrection in Clone Wars is just wild. I mean, the man survives being sliced in half and dumped into a garbage chute, and crawls back with spider legs, powered by pure hate. That's not just cool, that's hardcore. It takes a special kind of madness to keep going after that. Even when he loses, he makes it interesting. He's the guy who keeps showing up, keeps evolving, keeps trying to twist the board. His moves might fail, but the ambition behind them is always epic. You can't help but admire the sheer audacity of it all. So yeah, he was arrogant. Yeah, he was dumb in some key moments. But you don't crawl out of literal death and become a one-man rebellion, unless there's something incredible burning under the surface. And here's the crazy part. For all his missteps and ego trips, Maul still shows us what raw determination looks like. He may be a Sith, he may be a mess, but he never stops fighting, never stops reaching, never stops trying to prove he mattered. There's a strange hope in that. In watching someone who's fallen so far still push forward like the galaxy hasn't already written him off. Maul's story is full of losses, but every time he rises, he becomes more than what Sidious tried to make him. He starts to break free from the mold. He stops being just a weapon, and starts trying to forge his own legacy. Messed up as it is, and even though he fails, he keeps carving his name into the galaxy. One brutal scar at a time. In a weird way, Maul becomes the perfect cautionary tale for the Jedi and the Sith, because he proves what happens when you rely too much on image, and not enough on meaning. But he also proves that even broken people can still have purpose, even if it's not the one they thought they wanted. And that makes his story worth telling. Not because he was perfect, but because he never stopped trying to be something more than a mistake. In the end, Darth Maul didn't fall because he was weak, or because he was outmatched. He fell because he never stopped thinking he was invincible. His pride built the cage he spent his life trapped in, and by the time he realized it, the galaxy had already moved on without him. He wasn't some grand mastermind like Sidious, or a tragic hero like Anakin. He was a blunt instrument who thought strength alone would make him powerful. And that mistake followed him to every planet, every duel, every plan that collapsed beneath his ambition. But that's what makes his story hit so hard, because it shows what happens when talent isn't paired with wisdom, when rage overrides reason, when the need to prove yourself becomes bigger than who you actually are. Maul had everything he needed to become a legend, but he chose style over substance, revenge over redemption. And in the end, silence met him where his noise once roared. So no, Darth Maul wasn't overpowered. He was arrogant, reckless, and tragically human beneath all that fury. And that, more than anything, is what made his fall feel so inevitable. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy my videos, please consider looking at my pinned comment and checking out the links for my Amazon storefront. It contains my favorite Legos, my gear in which I make videos, and comics that I read on a daily basis. I update it constantly, so please, take a moment and click on the link. On top of that, check out my second channel, Critical Analysis Hub Plus, and my third channel, Critical Analysis Hub XP. Just one click would go on a long way in supporting my channels and future in YouTube.